Toilet paper has existed for about 150 years. Humans have existed for about 300,000. So, what was everybody doing for the other 299,000? The answer is corn cobs, and sponges, and broken pottery, and in one case, a bird's neck. Let's start with Rome, because Rome is where this gets worst. The Romans built public toilets. Long stone benches with holes cut in them, 20 seats in a row, no walls, no doors, no partitions of any kind. You sat shoulder to shoulder with strangers and had a conversation. Business deals were done in there. It was a social space. That is not the bad part. The bad part is the tersorium, a natural sea sponge tied to the end of a wooden stick. That was the tool. That was how you cleaned yourself. And there was one. Not one each. One. It lived in a channel of running water at your feet, and when you finished, you rinsed it off and you put it back for the next person. Some sites suggest it was rinsed in salt water or vinegar between uses, which sounds better until you remember what vinegar does not kill. Roman public toilets were, unsurprisingly, a phenomenal way to share parasites. The Greeks went a different direction. They used pessoi. Small, oval pieces of broken ceramic, smoothed at the edges, roughly the size of your palm, which is already worse. But here is the detail that makes it art. Archaeologists have found pessoi made from ostraca. Ostraca were the pottery shards Athenians used to vote people into exile. You scratched a name onto one and dropped it in a pot. That is where we get the word ostracized. So some of these shards have names on them, which means at least one Greek man broke up an old ballot, carved his enemy's name into it, and used it. That is the pettiest thing anyone has ever done. Meanwhile, across the Islamic world, they had already solved this properly. Water. Specifically, istinja, washing with water, using the left hand. This is genuinely the most hygienic system anyone had for over 1,000 years. It is also the reason the left hand is still considered unclean across much of the world, and why you do not eat or greet people with it. A cultural rule that billions of people still follow today, and the entire origin of it is bathroom logistics. China invented paper around the 2nd century, and the moment they had it, somebody worked out what else it was good for. We know this because in 589 AD, a scholar named Yan Zhitui wrote a very specific complaint. He said he would not use paper for the toilet if it had quotations from the sages written on it. Which tells you two things. Paper was being used for exactly that, and people were absolutely doing it with the good stuff. By the Ming Dynasty, it was industrialized. Records show the imperial household getting through 15,000 sheets a year, and the emperor's personal supply was soft, perfumed, and cut into squares. So while Europe was still using handfuls of hay, a Chinese emperor had scented 3-ply. Europe would not catch up for roughly 900 years. Japan used chugi, flat wooden sticks about 8 inches long, scraped clean and reused. Thousands of them have been dug up around old public latrines. Reused, as in washed and returned to the communal bucket. There is a recurring theme here, and the theme is that almost nobody in history had this to themselves. Medieval Europe had no system at all. You used whatever was within reach: hay, straw, moss, wool, weaves, your own hand, and then a rag. Monasteries were the exception. Monks had communal cloths, sometimes laundered, because monasteries were the only institutions in Europe running anything close to a hygiene policy. Wealthy households had a garderobe, a stone chute built into the castle wall that dropped straight into the moat, which is one of several reasons you did not want to swim in a moat. And it is where we get the word wardrobe. Clothes were hung in the garderobe because the smell of ammonia kept the moths out of the wool. Your wardrobe is named after a medieval toilet. Vikings used wool Coastal communities used mussel shells, which are smooth on the inside and are genuinely not the worst option on this list. Hawaii used coconut husks, and in the far north, in the middle of winter, when there was no vegetation at all, some Inuit communities used snow, which is at least clean. Which brings us to the bird. In the 1500s, the French writer François Rabelais wrote a novel in which a young giant tests every possible material and reports back on which is best. He goes through hats, curtains, cats, which goes badly, leaves, sage, lettuce, spinach, sheets, pillowcases, and a lawyer's bag. And his conclusion, after all of it, is the neck of a live goose. He describes the warmth as delightful. This is satire, to be clear. Rabelais was making a joke. But the joke only works because his readers recognize the list. Every single other item on it was something people were actually using. The goose is the punchline. The lettuce was real. Colonial America ran on corn cobs, dried, and this is important, with the kernels removed first. They were abundant, they were free, and by every account of the period, they worked considerably better than you are currently imagining. Some outhouses kept a bucket of them by the door. Then came the mail order catalog, and it changed everything. The Sears Roebuck catalog was hundreds of pages of soft, absorbent, free paper delivered to your door twice a year. It was so completely understood as toilet paper that the Old Farmer's Almanac started drilling a hole in the corner of every copy from 1919 so you could hang it on a nail in the outhouse. They did not do that so you could read it. And then, in the 1930s, Sears made a terrible mistake. They upgraded to glossy, clay-coated paper. Customers were furious. The company received complaints. People had built their entire bathroom routine around that catalog, and Sears had made it shiny and useless overnight. The first commercial toilet paper went on sale in 1857. An American named Joseph Gaetti sold flat sheets of hemp paper treated with aloe. He called it Gaetti's Medicated Paper, marketed it as a medical product for hemorrhoids, and was so proud of it, he had his own name watermarked onto every single sheet. It failed, not because it did not work. It failed because Americans refused to pay money for something they were getting free from the catalog, and because nobody wanted to be seen buying it. The roll arrived around 1890 from the Scott Paper Company, and Scott was so embarrassed by the product that for years they refused to put their own name on it. They sold it unbranded to other companies who put their labels on instead. The biggest name in toilet paper spent its early years pretending it had nothing to do with toilet paper. Which leaves one last thing to explain. In 1935, Northern Tissue launched an advertising campaign built around a single promise. Their toilet paper was splinter-free. Splinter-free as a selling point, meaning that up until 1935, that was not guaranteed. Early paper manufacturing left tiny fragments of wood pulp in the sheet, and this was such a widely understood hazard that a company could build a national ad campaign on simply not doing it. 300,000 years of humans, and the actual answer is sponges, pottery, sticks, corn, moss, shells, snow, and a mail order catalog with a hole in the corner. The soft roll next to you right now is about 90 years old in its current form. It is one of the most recent inventions in your entire house. Tell me in the comments which one you would pick if you had to. And if you say the goose, seek help.